I am here right now with my friend Saemmul. We are trying to make, well, she is trying to make 부대찌개. This is all we can make.
They didn't give us any baked beans.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, oh no! I got kimchi on my skirt. Oh, it looks really ugly like this. You need to wait until it starts boiling. You could cut to 5 minutes later.
1 hour later. Hello and welcome to another episode of A Glass with Billy. I have a special guest with us today, Saemmul.
Hello! My name is Saemmul and I run a YouTube channel called Your Korean Saem.
That's right. It used to be called
Yes,
All Things Korean.
It was All Things Korean. I changed it to Your Korean Saem. Yeah, basically I make random Korean videos about, learning Korean pronunciation, grammar, random vocabulary words.
One of the things I really like about her channel actually is that she has a lot of good videos on details about Korean pronunciation,
Yes.
which I haven't seen on any other YouTube channels, including my own. You had one about like the different meanings of ne? Like the different uses of that? Yeah. So a lot of like interesting videos that I didn't really think about. And then of course for anyone who's wondering, does she speak Korean? How good is her Korean?
네, 저는 100% 한국인입니다. 미국 여권도 없고요. 어린 시절을 미국에서 보냈지만 저는 한국인입니다.
There you go. I'll have a link to her channel in the description, so make sure to check it out and subscribe as well. And I'm actually here right now at Saemmul's house, and she just made us 부대찌개, which we ate, and there's actually a video of us eating that on her channel, and I'll put a link to that in the description as well. It was really good. So then, what are we going to be talking about today?
Pronunciation, because I feel like that's my forte on this.
Yes.
I was always interested in linguistics, and it was what I was planning to study when I first started college. And then recently I got my bachelor's degree and my certification as a Korean instructor in Korea. So I guess I am qualified to be talking.
She is qualified to be talking about this. That's why I wanted to meet and ask her for some of her tips about how to improve pronunciation. Among Korean learners, do you think most people have good pronunciation or bad pronunciation or somewhere in the middle? What's your opinion, I guess?
You get like really fluent sounding people from all over the world. Like you would think that if they came from that country, it would be a lot harder.
Like if a country doesn't have a certain sound in their language?
Yeah. But then, I watch your grading your subscribers.
Oh yes, that's right, yeah.
Yeah, like these people, they're really good.
Yeah, most of them are very good.
There aren't a lot of languages that are actually like super similar to Korean. Like for like Spanish or French, you have Romance languages and they're all related. They're like part of the same family. But Korean is really, it kind of stands out. So I don't think if you speak one language, it's easier to pronounce Korean. No matter where you're from, you're not really at a disadvantage. But I do feel like the people who are really interested in learning Korean and the ones who, make the effort to like follow different like media sources and things like that, they do sound more natural. Like they get the nuance and like the intonation of Korean. So that I think is very important.
To avoid giving too much fluff then, let's start out with what do you think is the most important thing that someone can do to improve their pronunciation in Korean?
I don't want to give one answer because I don't think there is just one way of...
There's not like one easy trick.
Yeah.
Korean teachers hate him.
So if you watch my videos on pronunciation, I get very, very detailed. Like I talk about the tongue position and how it's like articulated. When I received my education, we do learn that as educators, but that's not information that we're actually supposed to pass on to the students. You kind of simplify it, you don't need to get so scientific with like getting the tongue position right. I feel like if you focus on that too much, it'll just hinder your progress because you're focusing so much on, I need to pronounce this perfectly. I think just following the voices, obviously following a native speaker and trying to imitate that would be a very big help in making you sound a lot more natural.
You're kind of talking about then shadowing. For people who don't know what shadowing is, could you explain what that means.
Yeah, so basically shadowing is, you have maybe a clip or an audio or anything, and you're trying to say the exact same thing at the same time. So let's say if you're shadowing a Korean movie, then you'll follow along the dialogue at the same time and the same pace. So what that really helps you do is get the intonations right, like where the typical Korean speaker would place their emphasis and where they would make their pauses or where they would maybe lengthen the words. These kind of things they don't really teach you in school. Yeah, if you're shadowing someone, it'll really help you sound more like a Korean.
I used to do shadowing. I didn't know it, but I unconsciously was doing shadowing back when I was learning Japanese before Korean. I liked a lot of Japanese songs. So I would try to learn the lyrics to the songs by imitating the singer as much as possible. I would go to karaoke with my friends and my Japanese friends, and they would say like, wow, you actually sound pretty good when you're singing in Japanese. Yeah, kind of the same idea, I guess then.
That like intonation thing is actually really important. I grew up listening to Korean, but I grew up in the States, so I couldn't speak any Korean. So by the time I actually had to go to school in Korea, I could read and write Korean. My pronunciation of individual letters was perfectly fine. However, I didn't sound fluent because I didn't know how to speak naturally. So this is something my mom would always point out when she was trying to help me learn Korean. When you're reading a sentence, you need to know where to group the words together. So you need to know where the sentence makes a break. 뭐 했으니까, you pause over there and things like that. So it's kind of like working out. Like, you can't just improve one part. It's like a full body. I don't know. I
don't know. I have no idea about that either.
Let's say you did try out the shadowing. By shadowing, you'll also learn a lot of vocabulary. You'll learn more grammar points, speaking. That'll also help your listening. So I feel like, rather than just, I'm going to improve my pronunciation, by making the effort to improve your pronunciation, you will end up improving all the different aspects of Korean.
What would be a way that you would do that? Would you just like turn on a TV show and just try to copy what they're saying?
If you're going to shadow, I think you should at least understand what you're going to shadow first, because you're not just blindly following like.
That's true. You're not going to know what they said.
Yeah.
It'd be like the telephone game you play in school.
Right. So if it's like a drama or a movie, if you can get the script, or if you watch like YouTube videos or variety shows, they'll have subtitles
or something.
And like read it out first, understand what you're saying, try to follow along, like break it down into little bits. Yeah, and then you could record yourself and then compare the two.
See how close you sound to the person you're trying to shadow.
Yeah. So I think just like everyday topic dealing shows.
What is it? She teaches Korean, not English.
So shows that that deal with everyday interactions,
like variety shows,
right. Variety
like,
shows, because those are less scripted. Like scripted ones are fine; they're still okay because they are obviously scripted after the way Koreans would speak. But if you want to get all the filler words and like the sounds that Koreans make when they're talking, like 뭐, for that I would say the variety shows are better.
What if someone doesn't like variety shows, or what if someone doesn't want to watch TV?
So maybe audiobooks, like children's stories and things like that. Children's stories, they're for children, so they'll be using...
Yeah, they'll be like, goo goo gaga.
Yeah. 무서워요.
Yeah.
Like, 했어요. It's like very... like sing-songy. And I feel like children's stories, they have a lot more like onomatopoeias. So they're fun, but I don't think they're the most practical.
One of the things I actually use for my exposure to Korean, one is I have some YouTubers that I like watching. They're not for practicing Korean, just because I like watching them. And another is I also listen to a lot of audiobooks. There are some horror radio short stories that I enjoy watching.
Diva?
Not Diva Jessica.
Oh, so there's this channel that my mom really likes watching, and it's called Pichi. So it's this guy that makes videos about like different topics in Korea. And so like different things that have to do with things that Koreans are interested in.
Okay.
Everything is subtitled.
So then what about like beginners who say they've only been studying for a few months and they want to improve their pronunciation? Should they go and actually practice any of those sounds they're having trouble with specifically? What's your opinion on that?
Oh yeah, I think if there is a sound that you're struggling with, you should definitely kind of work on it a little bit. I think that's what my videos are for, so check them out. What I tried to do in my videos was to find similar sounds in other languages. I think the biggest ones are like the pairs, so like the 기역, 쌍기역, kiuk. A lot of people say that that sounds like the same.
Yeah, I remember I had a lot of trouble with those. I remember learning like ta and then ja, but to me it just sounded like ja, just saying it louder.
Yeah.
So I couldn't really distinguish them in my head how like ta, and ta were different.
For the double consonants, definitely what helped was finding examples in Italian and Spanish and Indian.
Do they have some kind of similar things there?
Yeah, so I noticed the way they pronounce what normally in English or Korean would be like a ka, they would pronounce it less aspirated, like a ga,
Okay.
mikasa. Like,
so then that's kind of like ga in Korean.
Right. So if you associate that with the double consonants, and also when I hear Indians speaking English, I notice that all of their like K's and like CH's and those sounds that normally we would be like cha or ka, they would pronounce that as ja and ka.
Okay, so they're already doing those kind of tense sounds.
So I think if you're interested in that kind of in the like the terminology that goes behind it, if you really want to dig deep into it, you will learn a lot about your own language, you know, if that's the type of like nerd you are.
This is a nerd right here.
This is a nerd over here.
Yeah.
But I think if you kind of at the beginning, if you sound like a beginner, even if you say it a little wrong, it's still understandable. Like 뭐 가수,
가수. Everyone will know you're saying
저는
가수.
가수예요. 이렇게 말하면 다 이해할 수 있어요. People will still understand you, so don't beat yourself up too much about that.
Yeah, I mean, although there are lots of cases where mispronouncing something can sound like a different word, with context, nobody's going to be confused if you said one word or the other, like 불 or 뿔 or 풀. Like, yeah, they're all different. But if you said like 뿔 있어요, no one's gonna think you said horns. They're gonna think you mispronounced fire.
Or like 살 빼고 싶어요.
So don't worry too much about it. People will still understand even if it's not perfect.
I didn't actually do a lot of shadowing. I guess I shadowed my mom because she was like there to help me. I would make marks in the text before doing the shadowing. 오늘은 친구와 함께 영희 집에 갔어요. Here where the native speaker groups the words together. So 오늘은 check. 친구와 함께 check. 영희 집에 놀러 갔어요. So 영희 집에 놀러 갔어요 일 수도 있고.
Or
영희 집에 놀러 갔어요. If you mark that on your paper, then it gets easier to follow along.
you can use it as a reference for yourself then when you're trying to read it out loud. Like, okay, here is where I could stop.
And also, if you look at the Korean blog posts or short like text blurbs in Korean, so instead of punctuation, what Koreans like to do is they make line breaks.
Yeah, just a new line.
Right. They make line breaks in specific places. That can also be an indicator where you should kind of make a pause.
So let me think if there's anything else we should end the video with.
Pronunciation is good.
Pronunciation is good. I'm not gonna end the video with that.
Pronunciation is fun.
So thanks for watching, and if you have any tips for learning pronunciation, what do you do or what did you do to improve your pronunciation, as well as what sort of struggles have you had with your pronunciation? Please let me know in the comments below. I do read all of your comments. Again, another special thanks to my guest today, Saemmul. 1, 2, 3.
그럼 다음에 또 봐.